Hello there and welcome to this week's Granny's Garden. This week it's all about creating garden rooms. First and foremost, no matter how small your garden is, you can always create different garden rooms, different areas, different ambiences within your garden. The separation can be a specimen shrub, a bench, an arbour, a sculpture, some containers, a change of paving, or even some steps down to a different level. Like that. Question: why do you want garden rooms in the first place? Well, it might be that you want more than one style in your garden without it seeming a chaotic mix-match. What it does do is make your garden feel bigger than it really is. If you look out your window and you see a rectangle of lawn surrounded by a fence, your brain takes about half a millisecond to take it all in. If, on the other hand, you've got lovely curved paths, you can't quite see what's going on around the corner. You've got a beautiful arbour covered in a climbing rose. You've got a little pergola, maybe a sculpture peeping up among the vegetation, or in the long distant corner you might have a little round table with a couple of chairs. Your brain is going to have more questions than answers, and you're going to be drawn in to explore. You can create mini oases for yourself. You can put a little table and chair under a favourite tree, and it can become a favourite reading place for you. A little tiny water feature so you can listen to the water. Something that smells delicious. That can be flowering shrubs, it can be roses, it can be something as simple as herbs. The only boundary is your imagination, and the only thing holding you back is you. There are two elements in any garden that you have no control over. One is the location of your house, and the second is the path of the sun over your garden. But you have to know the second one. You have to know which areas of your garden are full sun, which are shade, and which are dapple shade, because based on that, you can get the ambiences you wanted and the plants you want. Now, the first thing we do is draw the shape of our garden. Usually they're either square or rectangle, normally more rectangle than square. Say your house is here, the way they normally are. Let's imagine that your garden is a rectangle of lawn with a fence around it. And some people who are terribly adventurous put little borders around the side. Usually borders that are terribly, terribly narrow, often only 1.5 feet wide, with just some little plants here. Of course, they can only be planted in a straight line because there isn't enough depth here to even plant them zigzagged to give some depth. Is this ringing any bells? Are you feeling a bit embarrassed about it? Don't worry about it. I've just described 90% of all gardens. So now you start with the what if. All houses really need some sort of entertainment area. So let's say you put an entertainment area here. It can be a patio, it can be a deck, it can be tiled. I always recommend that it's some sort of hard thing that can be swept, it can be hosed down, or can be power washed if necessary. Instead of putting it boring, looking out, maybe put it on the diagonal, which draws your eyes that way instead of that way. You've still got the rectangular lawn. What happens if I say that I'm going to just leave this corner here and this corner here, but I'm going to cut it this way and leave a fan-shaped lawn, and maybe plant a little hedge around it. Now, automatically, I've got a curved path here. And what happens if this border, instead of being so skingy and narrow, I take it down here, and I start planting trees, and I start creating a shade area, a little woodland area. And what if I'm sitting here and I want my eyes drawn to the end? I might put a little sculpture here, or a water feature. And what if I let this border go wild, and instead of being so straight lined, I make it wider but let the trees sort of fall over, or the shrubs fall over onto the path, and then come in again and maybe go out again. Something free line. The whole garden has changed with just 2 strokes on a piece of paper. Now we're going to have a look at my garden. My garden is a work in progress, and it's really in its second growing season. I'm creating different rooms here, and I'm going to have more projects on the cards for this year. My garden is a middle-sized garden. It is 0.2 of an acre, so it doesn't even reach 1/4 of an acre. However, anything I'm doing here can be scaled up or can be scaled down. It's just up to your imagination. Now I'm starting with this area. Why? Because it has 0 hours of sun a day. So what do I do with it? I use it as a utility area. Put a roof over it, that keeps it dry. I keep my wood here. I've got my fuel tank there, and a few other odds and ends like maybe a ladder or lawnmower. It becomes a useful area, but is completely hidden from view from either the front of the house or the back of the house. So if at all possible, don't use prime growing areas for your utilities. They're eyesores. Get them hidden away preferably in an area that can't be used for anything else. Now we get to the entertainment area, one of the most important areas of the house. Now those double doors behind me lead straight through to the kitchen, so access is very, very easy. These wooden benches are out all year round. However, in spring, summer and autumn, they have lovely comfy pillows on top of them. And so I won't have to be taking the pillows inside and outside all the time. Over this area, I've got a little roof. And under that roof is a nice little awning. When the sun gets too hot, we just pull the curtains down and then we can continue to enjoy this area. So it's always worthwhile thinking that if you put some sort of little roof over the entertainment area, that you're able to extend the period of use. These are the first two elements of what will be a dry garden. This area is going to be gravelled. It doesn't really have enough water pressure up here to get further irrigation. So what I want to plant here are nice grasses and things like gara or campion. And the idea is to have these urns peeking out among perennial grasses. And the transition from the entertainment area into the dry garden is, first of all, it changes direction, and then it changes the type of floor or the type of flooring it has. It goes from hardscaping to gravel. And then automatically these two major elements are going to be the major elements within the dry garden, and it's going to be planted around it. But those are the focal points. If you have the opportunity of keeping different levels in your garden, keep them. Don't be putting loads of soil to level it up. It's very interesting to have a change of level within a garden. Put a few steps down and you just hop down the steps. And we come to the newest area, which is obviously a work in progress. This is the hidden patio that was underneath a lawn. I'll give you a link to the video where we discovered it. And this will be beautifully planted with little ground cover plants that have flowers most of the year. So we're now down to a different type of garden. Those of you who have been following me know that this area has been cleaned out recently because it was full of invasive vines. And now all of this area is going to be built up as a mixed shrub border. I don't like straight lines, so I'm letting it curve in and out to leave it free. And if some of them, like this one, the Jewel of Canberra, decides to spill out over onto the gravel path, all the better. Just below the porch, I've got this beautiful raised area here. It's about 3 sleepers high. This was completely full of briars when I arrived here, so I cleaned the whole thing out. Now, because of its proximity to the house, it had to be something that both my husband and I liked, and we both adore bulbs. So here I've got spring flowering bulbs and summer flowering bulbs, and I've got my dahlias for the autumn. I've also got a few perennials, and it's where I put my bedding plants or my summer annual plants. So lots of colour going on here all year round, just below the porch, and the porch is where we have our lunch every single day and we can see it. But again, a completely different type of planting area. First thing you need to forgive, it's the lawn has been fed because it is springtime, it starts to grow, and I've fed it. So this is compost on top of it, making it look pretty dirty, but it's normally nice and green. So this is the fan-shaped lawn I was showing you on earlier on the drawing. It's a fan-shaped lawn. Lily adores it to play on. I've just surrounded by a little euonymus hedge. This is an open area where your eye can just rest. So again, different type of planting. But I want to draw my eye downwards. So down at the very end, I've got this beautiful olive tree, and peeking out behind the olive tree is my fairy. The paths here are curved. This is a lovely specimen tree, a multi-trunk olive tree. Then I've got my fairy, and of course in summer I've got the climbing roses, and behind her I'm going to be putting a fern garden. Swinging around to the left, that curve goes out as far as the driveway. Now, so far the front of this area is planted with things like mahonia, I've got nandina, I've got abelia, I've got prunus, and I'm creating a woodland area. This area now is receiving a bit too much light at the moment, but it's going to be ever more shaded as I plant more and more shrubs and trees. Now this area here to the end is more like what I'm looking for. This area is now shaded, it's got my hellebores, it's got my heucheras, and if I turn round, you can see that the trees are now shading it and giving this lovely light that I want. So this is the little woodland area, or the future woodland area. I'm getting there in parts, but I've still got a bit to go. I need to plant up and put a lot more trees here, a lot more shrubs there, to give it the little woodland. And of course, I've got the little stepping stones through the woodland. So when you come in the garden gate, you can either go up the driveway, in through the little woodland area, or in through this path, or onto the lawn area. And then this future shrub border here, again, is going to be very, very free lined. Nothing straight, nothing hard, no straight lines. As I've said, my garden is a work in progress. It's come a long way in 2 growing seasons, and certainly in 3 years' time it's going to look a lot different than it does today. So I certainly hope you're going to be joining me, so please subscribe on this journey to get this garden whipped up into shape. But I hope I've left you with some ideas. You can scale it up, you can scale it down. But the most important thing is to get out that bit of paper, get out that pen and start sketching ideas. Let your imagination flow. If that's the only idea you've taken away today, go for it. Get your imagination flowing, and meantime, I'll see you next week here in Granny's Garden. Bye-bye now.